Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 Podcast live stream. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi. With the NFL draft pretty much just around the corner, about a month from now, pretty much. We've been focusing a lot on the Chicago Bears. I've had the pleasure of doing pretty much, yes, oh, sorry. I have my YouTube channel on simultaneously as well. Sorry about the noise there, Shayne.
Oh, good.
We are very, very pleased to welcome from the Tape Never Lies Network, TTNL, one of the co-hosts of the show, along with Phil Otoshin. It is Shayne Marsaw. How you doing, Shayne?
Doing good, man. We got a few more weeks to go, but we can
absolutely
see a little light at the end of the tunnel, and that's what I'm looking for. It's been a long, crazy ride as a Bears fan first and foremost, but as an analyst, and I know we're going to get into all that, but it's definitely been a different offseason. That's all I'm going to say. We should be super excited for sure, but it's been a stressful one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll get into the cause of that stress in a little bit, but I really appreciate you plugging in the live stream tonight. Obviously, a lot of people have been waiting for you to come on, and obviously kind enough to leave a comment, and have been waiting on the YouTube as well. It is awesome. Thank you so much, and we'll try and get to as many comments as possible. So keep them, if you're TTNL listeners, I appreciate you joining me on short notice tonight. So, Shayne, obviously one of the problems that caused so much angst amongst the Bears fans, obviously the discourse between Justin Fields fans and the Caleb Williams fans. We'll get to that in a bit, but we knew that Justin was kind of maybe on the outs, certainly because Ryan Poles didn't draft the guy that.
Sure.
That's the biggest thing with the new GMs, and that's been one of the biggest problems with the Bears. They've always, drafted a quarterback and paired with the head coach that was on thin ice, only to replace the following year, which we've done so many times with Rex Grossman and Dick Duran, Mitch Trubisky and John Fox, and the latest one with Justin Fields and Matt Nagy, and of course Ryan Pace. And so I'm going to ask you this question. It's been a while since I've been following your network, and what was the conversation like? You, Phil, and amongst the followers of your network about the whole Justin Fields versus Caleb Williams, and where were you on the whether you were okay with bringing back Justin Fields versus moving on with Caleb Williams to reset the rookie contract situation?
What really separated TTNL, I think, from everybody else is we started this conversation last year in March when the trade was consummated on March 10th with Carolina. Where we're talking about, we broke down all of the guys last year. CJ Stroud was my QB1 last year. My partner Phil Otoshin at TTNL, he was a Bryce Young fan, and we both were in agreement that you could not move off of Justin. So you saw the trade consummated, and we totally understood it. You got to give him a fair shake. Bringing in DJ Moore and giving him another year to see how it was. But in the back of our minds, and this is very well documented on our network, we talked about Caleb Williams. If Caleb Williams came out last year, you're drafting Caleb Williams. That's just it's the way that it is, and that's we put a lot of work and a lot of time and effort into what we do. But just to fast forward to this year, we didn't waver at all through the firestorm that took place on social media and with media and on ESPN and just NFL Network. We kind of flatlined. We took a lot of grief from there's a lot of craziness out there. There was we had people come in and say that Phil and I were racist because we want to move off a black quarterback, and we're like, well, we want to bring in Caleb Williams. So
and Caleb is a black quarterback himself.
Yeah. So Caleb Williams, to us, and Phil and I, like I said, we've been doing this a lot of years, and Matthew Carstensen, Bears nerd, that does work with us too. We were all in agreement. It's Caleb Williams, and honestly, Steven, it's not even close. And that it's really nothing against Justin.
Right.
It's there was some progression there, just nowhere near enough. And Ryan Poles talked about it. He had a lot of things going against him just financially. You talk about people want to dismiss the rookie wage scale and say that didn't play into it. It's 100% gonna play into it. But at the end of the day, the Bears as an organization are very, very flawed. Justin Fields is a flawed quarterback that has talent. So it was kind of a recipe for disaster from the beginning. And unfortunately, why it got so toxic is because people get intoxicated by the big plays and Justin puts on the uniform and he looks like a Marvel superhero out there. And we're used to looking at guys, like you said, like Jim Miller and Shane Matthews and Cade McNown and Rex Grossman. And you get this guy that's out there that can really change a game with his feet or with a big pass play, even though it's inconsistent in the pass game. People fell in love with that. And as a Bears fan, our bar at quarterback is set so low, you think that that's the best. And it's not the best. Caleb Williams comes in tomorrow, and he's a more progressed passer as a rookie in year one versus Justin Fields heading into year 4. And it's not close.
Yeah. The progression just wasn't there enough. And I totally understand. I can also see the argument that, and I've been making this point on record on social media. And I also write for the beargoggleson.com, part of the fan-sided network, about, the winners and losers in all of this. The loser is, of course, the Chicago Bears. Before we went on air, we talked about just how flawed the Bears have been when it comes to drafting and pairing quarterbacks. Terrible. They just kept making the same mistakes over and over again, only to fire the coach and even the general manager the following year, which somehow just didn't make sense at all. And the intent was there, and I totally understand, but because the Bears were such a disaster of an organization, and the teams coming off a bad year. If you look at the 2016, they were 3-13. The next year they drafted Trubisky, and then John Fox was fired. And then 2010, the Bears finished 8-8 in the COVID year, but it was just Trubisky getting benched, Foles taking over, and then being benched again for him. And then we had this discord about whether to keep Pace and Nagy, and then they ended up giving one more year, and then we saw how that turned out, unfortunately. So, the Bears organization, unfortunately, and at least I give credit to Ryan Pace for admitting that they didn't do a good enough job. But, as much of a blame I think people want to give Ryan Poles, for, especially if you're a Fields fan and who still hasn't, been able to move on from, how he was treated. Poles had to do a lot of shit cleaning because of what Ryan Pace did with the horrible mismanagement of the cap, free agency, and then also, giving away draft capitals. And on top of that, it's one thing you give away draft capitals. You haven't been able to hit on, any of the draft picks that, only a handful, maybe.
It's the snowball effect. You go out and you pay that's everybody gets intoxicated by NFL free agency and they love the big names and all of that. But the problem is in free agency, you end up paying C and B level talent, premium prices, and you can't build your team that way. And that's Ryan Pace drafted Adam Shaheen, and then he had to, you follow that up, and you're going out and paying
Jimmy Graham, right?
Yeah, you're going out and paying Jimmy Graham. You're going out and paying Trey Burton, and it's just it gets worse and worse and worse. And can we swear on here, by the way?
Absolutely. I already,
right.
Yeah,
okay.
I've said it. I've not been banned from it. Don't worry about it.
My buddy Phil has one of his favorite things, and he one thing with TTNL, when you listen to Phil and I talk, Phil 99.9% of the time is talking
Yes.
from a coach's perspective.
Right.
Cars and myself, we're looking at it more as a GM perspective overall. The broader view, and Phil's philosophy is fuck a cap, and it's a myth, and all it to a certain extent it's true. If you're in a position to contend for a Super Bowl, you don't mind pushing some things down the road, but at some point Tony Soprano's knocking at your door and you got you owe the man some money. And that's what Ryan Poles kept on pushing things down the road, and that's why you trade a guy like Khalil Mack, undervalue, that is still a very good player, because you just need to get those financials off the books. But you're right, he left an absolute mess for Ryan Poles, and unfortunately his last first round draft pick ended up being the sacrificial lamb out of all of it.
Right. Well, it's unfortunate that how it started. Ryan Poles, excuse me, I keep saying Pace because they're both same Ryans, but to his credit, Poles has done a real good job tearing down the team. Obviously we knew that it was going to be a rough year the first year he took over, and then from 2022 to 2023 the improvements were there, definitely. I know that we blew 3 games because of Eberflusas' conservative coaching style, and we will get to about Eberflus and the future in a little bit. But what do you make of the job that Ryan Poles has done so far? And do you still have any little bit of a issue with how he has constructed the roster, both in free agency and in the draft?
I really don't. I spoke on record the day that he made the Chase Claypool trade that I would not have done it. But I understood it with them having the 2 second round draft picks after that, from resulting from the Roquan Smith trade. So, but other than that, I mean, and again, I understand that everybody gets so excited, and in the NFL draft game and the player acquisition game, if you're batting 250, you're an all-timer. And that's, I always laugh when people are like, oh, Charles Leno was a 7th round bust, or Braxton Jones is a 5th round bust. There's no busts down there. If you want to call somebody like Adam Shaheen a bust, go for it. You want to call a guy like Velus Jones a bust, go for it. I totally get it. But you're gonna have swings, you're gonna have misses. But this is the ultimate separator for me, Steven, and this is the difference. The difference from Ryan Pace, and you can back it up to Phil Emery and back it up to even Jerry Angelo. Ryan Pace has showed you that if he takes a big swing on Chase Claypool, he has no problem saying, you know what, I fucked up and it was a mistake, and you're gone. Bears leadership from the past are like, oh, we're gonna take the off season. We're gonna figure this out. We're gonna, we invested a lot of money into this guy. Draft compensation. We got to keep him around. We're gonna figure it out. And you said it kind of in the open. The Bears are a franchise that have not been a year too late. They've been 2 years too late with things rather than a year too early. They wait. Ryan Poles proved a lot to me when he moved off of Chase Claypool that no, I see my mistake. I'm getting out. I'm moving on, and we're going to figure out how to replace him. And here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of like the what you said. Poles admitting that Claypool trade was a unmitigating disaster, and there's why some people are probably kind of scared that the Bears got fleeced again when they traded Justin Fields to the same Pittsburgh Steelers for only a 6th-round pick. And Shayne, what was your take on that whole trade? And the value that the Bears ended up getting. And before we get to your comments, I'm going to try and play the clip from yesterday's owner GM's meeting about why Ryan Poles spoke about why it didn't work out for the Bears. Take a listen.
There's a lot to unpack there. I think. If you go through the whole deal, like in the very beginning, I think that was a choppy start in a rookie year. And then when I came in, we had some cleaning up to do, which then delayed another year of adding talent and supporting. And then just in terms of the game, I feel like he was making strides and improving. The problem is, and it's really – and that's what I try to explain. It wasn't Justin versus one of these rookies. It's really the timeline and how much runway that you have, because really to get a guy up off the ground, you need to support him with as much talent as possible. And then that flips, because then they take so much cap space, which is a good thing if you get to that point. But then they have to be the reason you start winning. So then it's harder to add the talent, around them. And you can look around the league and it happens a lot. And really, the teams that can sustain success through that period, I think, do a really special job.
Well, do you appreciate his, not necessarily the candor, but obviously his, honesty? We saw him go on Pat McAfee show today and talk about, Caleb Williams, and then, not appreciating RG3's comment about, Caleb, should try and pull off that Eli Manning, which obviously makes no sense and lacks substance. Right. And it makes sense for RG to be some sort of a, kind of a spokesman per se for Washington, because he played for them. But do you at least appreciate that Poles' candor and honesty to maybe put himself out there in front, whereas in the past, the Bears executives, Ted Phillips, Ryan Pace, and so forth, they really never, they barely did the bare minimum.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate it. And listen, I think the end of the day, this is, did I lose you there?
No, I can hear you. It's a little bit blurred there, but Shayne, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think something just clicked off. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. I just think talking about his candor and his openness and honesty, he takes it to a certain point, but I think, watching that back, he speaks on the timing of it. And the timing of it to me doesn't really, it's not anything to do with talent. It's all about financial. The only thing I don't think he was being 100% honest was when he was saying that it's not really a comparison to the guys that are coming out now, because it 100% is, because Caleb Williams is a better quarterback prospect.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's just the way it is. But you can't come out and you can't listen. You have to have the ability to play poker, and you have to be able to, put some positive vibes out there and frame them a certain way. When you're in a huge market in Chicago with some, pretty volatile fan base. So I totally understand it. But I do think that he is very, very open. And it takes a lot of media and a lot of people by surprise.
Sure.
And, he's very calculated when you hear him speak. I think almost with every single word, there's almost a pause between every one, because he's very thoughtful in what he puts out there. And I do appreciate that, because the NFL is I don't give a fuck business with a lot of people.
Exactly.
And, players see that. Players understand that. He's got a young locker room. He's got a leader like DJ Moore and a leader like Tremaine Edmonds and guys like that. They see this. They see how he handled this. And, he called them, and Flus called them to involve them before this was made public. And I think things like that matter big time.
Absolutely. We talked about, the media's role, and obviously a lot of clickbait going on right now. Jeremy Anastasi, thank you very much for the comments, and I appreciate everybody commenting, trying to keep posting them as much as possible. So nationally, we certainly saw the Discord. Mel Kiper and I believe Field Yates were talking about the Bears could get a first round pick for Justin Fields not too long ago, which obviously turned out to be a unmitigated disaster by those two guys. And then we had the local here, Chicago radio station. The name I'm not going to mention because I think we all know who I'm referring to. And I actually, full disclosure, I got into a bit of a tiff with this person, unfortunately, and I do kind of regret it, but. This person was, certainly was the first one to kind of get on the Caleb bandwagon pretty much around mid-season and all the way through, through the entire off season, of course. You and I obviously do our thing, from a non-traditional media perspective, but how much do you probably put the blame on, the media kind of creating this firestorm between Fields versus Williams and just kind of a inflated value and the perception of Justin, as value around the league and so forth?
Well, I tend to look at this a different way. To me, I think blaming the media mostly is kind of I look at it as a bit of a cop-out overall, because this is, 20 years ago, Stephen, you and I weren't doing a podcast talking about Chicago Bears trades and player acquisition and stuff like that. And, we do this and Bears fans, I don't want to say all of them are smarter because there's a lot of mouth breathing idiots out there. But
I tend to be one of those guys too.
Strong group of Bears fans and NFL fans overall that are smarter fans because of access to all 22, with NFL Plus and access to, your show and to TTNL and the podcasts out there that, people that are diving into every little small nuance. And this social media world that we live in, where the news cycle isn't, a couple of hours a day, it's updated by the second. And I understand it. I'm the guy that'll in the middle of the night when there's, you're the opening night of free agency, you're like, oh, I woke up for a second, I might as well check Twitter, see if anybody signed. And listen, I'm just as guilty.
Me too.
We all do it.
We all do it.
And I think in turn that makes everybody volatile. And I just look at it, like with the mock drafts, they start and people start putting them out and you're an idiot, the Bears would never do this, they're not going to do that. And these shows, in the media that are doing this all day, every day, it's 100% about clicks and changing things up, because they know there's fans like Steven and Shayne and all of our fans from TTNL Network that crave every morsel that comes out. So what better way than to have an idiot like Dan Orlovsky go out there and say that Jaden Daniels is by far the best quarterback prospect in the draft, or Mel Kiper to come out and say that the Bears might get the 8th overall pick in the draft. That's clickbait bullshit that they are guilty from, but they're trying to create content. But at the same time, the people listening to it only hear what they want to hear. If you are anti-Caleb Williams, you're worried about the color of his fucking phone case last night at the USC game.
Exactly.
That's a thing now. If you are pro Justin Fields, it's, he needs more weapons. He needs more. You got to give him Marvin Harrison Jr. Well, then I ask that person, what was he surrounded by at Ohio State? A lot more talent.
Absolutely.
And he had great stats there, but if you look at his game on tape, and there's a difference between tape and broadcast, if you look at it on tape, the flaws that he had at Ohio State showed up in year 3, and they are showing up heading into year 4. So at what point is it got to be more talent, or at what point is it this is just who Justin is right now? Because part of me thinks that he's going to improve, but I also think he's going to make big plays in Pittsburgh when he gets out there. But there's going to be the inconsistencies, and is it going to be he's been dealt a raw stick by Chicago, so that's what it is. At some point, it's got to fall back onto the player also. But just real quick, getting back to the media, this is a massive fan base with rabid fans, like I said, that love everything that comes out about the Bears. The Score knows it. ESPN Radio knows it. CHGO knows it. All of these outlets know it. And they're no different than us. They're no different than us fans. Yeah. They're up and down. That's why when Adam Johns goes to see Drake May play, he saw one game of Drake May. And if you go look at his articles, it was almost like he was the Messiah. After one
I remember that. Yes.
One game.
Yep.
Why is that? Because that's not sitting back and doing your due diligence. That's just simply reactionary, like a fan.
Right.
And you're supposed to be an analyst. And this, I know I'm going on a rant here, but I'm very passionate about this because we've taken a lot of grief at TTNL from other analysts that come out and say, well, you guys are against Justin and he's still on the team. Right. Well, you tell me where it makes any sense. If we are a network based on tape analysis, yes, we are 100% Bears fans. But where does it make sense that we can't analyze a player that's on the Chicago Bears, and if he has flaws, that we can't point them out? If you don't want to hear that, then you're way more flawed than anybody. You're a fair weather fan that doesn't really know anything about football, and you don't want to hear anything negative. There's lots of places you can go to get nothing but positivity. We're passionate about what we do, and if you want to just tune into somebody with sunshine and rainbows, there's places out there for that. And I get fired up with that because we do what we do to speak the truth about it. Right. First and foremost, we're Bears fans. And if Justin Fields was the right direction for this franchise to go, and that's what we thought, that's what we would say. He's not. And he got traded to Pittsburgh for a 6th round draft pick. And everybody in the NFL had access to him. Everybody did. And there's a quarterback problem in the NFL. So what does that truly say? Right. The NFL has spoken.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like Alex said here, the truth will set you free. And, as difficult as it is for us to, I wanted Justin to succeed as much as everybody else. I remember watching your show the night of the draft, in which you, Phil, and Cars were excited about the trade that the Bears move up from 20 to 11 with the Giants to get the quarterback. I was excited as much as anybody else. Right. I remember it. I think all of us remember how excited we were, and it's unfortunate it just didn't work out. Now, it's on the Bears organization and their perception. It is out there, unfortunately. That's why we heard so much about nonsense about Caleb's fingernails, crying in the stands with his family, and the media ran with it because every single time the Bears have a quarterback issue, they continuously ran the same old the 1930s or 40s photo of Sid Luckman, and we all want a quarterback that we can claim that is ours. We're not asking, like a Peyton Manning type of guy who can throw 65,000 yards in his entire career with the Bears. We just want somebody, in this day and age where the offense has clear advantage over the defense.
Yeah.
We want the quarterback, and we want the Bears to finally move on from that 85 mindset that they have seem to be stuck in the past.
Yeah.
And that we are finally in a right position to not only draft a quarterback, but also surround him with an incredible talent. Well, I wouldn't want to call it incredible, but at least I would say, the talent we have, at least is much better than any of the the first overall quarterbacks who were taken in the past. Troy Aikman, Peyton Manning, David Carr, Trevor Lawrence, Vinny Testaverde, and then last year, of course, Bryce Young. They're in a much better position. So
100%.
Absolutely. And so in closing, about the Fields, I think we know that Justin, we will miss definitely his, leadership on and off the field. He definitely put up with a real bad, situations. He never really openly complained. Thankfully, maybe after the Tampa game, of course, there was a bit of showing him frustrations about, wanting to play freely and all that kind of stuff. But most of the time, he never, openly complained about the receivers, the coaches, OC, or even the Bears organization and the fans itself. And I think that really was one of the reasons why fans really wanted him to succeed and wanted him to stay, because, obviously the character and the talent isn't an end all be all for that person's success, but his work ethic and everything that he has, that in his mind and in his body, there's no question that going to this Pittsburgh Steelers is a much better situation for him. And I think a lot of fans, no matter where he goes, and even if after he retires from football, regardless of how things turns out with the Pittsburgh Steelers,
sure,
I do believe that there will be a lot of Bears fans, and even maybe the Steelers fans too, who will root for him and hopefully wish him nothing but success outside of football as well. So, now that we have finally put an end to this, let's talk about the Bears free agency. And, the Bears kind of started off real fast, like 2 minutes into the free agency. They got DeAndre Swift. Obviously, Matt Eberflusas said that they needed somebody with the speed and a home run ability. We saw with Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson, they really don't offer, they're like, I would say, a decent running back. Herbert has the ability to, run, gain pretty nice yardage, but, he's been hurt and he doesn't really catch the ball well out of the backfield. Those are massive problems. But then, you had Gerald Everett, and then, the other big ones, of course, is the Keenan Allen signings. But so far, how would you rate the Bears free agency on a scale, from A to F right now? Do you give it a solid B or even higher?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right in there with a solid B grade. And I mean, I think if you come away and free I'm not ever worried about winning free agency. A lot of fans, oh man, look what we did, and this isn't where I want to make my. This isn't where I want to make my hay. Washington back in the day used to sign every big name out there, and they would always win in March, and it never translated over to the field. Another thing that I like about Ryan Poles is you have to pinpoint guys in free agency, and I think he's kind of got the same philosophy that I've always believed in. You go after, if you're going to spend legit money on a player, you want to bring in a guy that is young and has upside. And that's when, they looked at Tremaine Edmonds and when he hit the free agent market at like 24 years old, just turning 25 years old. And you're paying him. Yes, every guy's not going to be that young, but DeAndre Swift just turned 25 years old. He doesn't have a ton of mileage on him. He is an explosive player that can make plays between the tackles. He can get outside. He can also make plays in the pass game. And he fits that mold of, of I don't even want to call him a running back. I just consider him a weapon. That is an exit plan where last year where Justin would get a little bit antsy in the pocket and look for the exit door. And this is going to be the difference with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, if you look at any tape with him, when he has the mesh with the running back, his head is literally on a gimbal, and he's always looking downfield. His head is always where Justin, you could look at him and he would be looking around for an exit to run.
Yeah.
Caleb's looking for an exit to make a pass, to dump it off to a DeAndre Swift or a Cole Kmet or a play downfield. So, in terms of that, like I said, a solid B. The Keenan Allen trade is my favorite. It wasn't one that was expected to me, and again, it kind of goes against my, obviously it's not a free agent signing, it's a trade acquisition, but yes. I have very little problem with him being 31 years old, going to be 32 in season. Because why? Because you're bringing in a rookie quarterback, and this guy, his entire game is built on precision and timing. And anybody that had a question mark about what the Bears were going to do at quarterback, them trading for Keenan Allen was the absolute mic drop. If you thought that they were getting Keenan Allen for Justin Fields, it goes against everything that Justin Fields does as a quarter. You can't get him a guy that is based on precision in timing. That's not who Justin is. Caleb should be that guy. So he's a perfect guy for Caleb Williams to match up and mesh up with DJ Moore. And we'll see. I know we're going to talk about number 9 here a little bit. We'll see how the draft plays out for them there, but they're not done adding to this offense at all. If I was going to say one thing, where am I a little bit surprised, is we have a big gaping door across from Montez Sweat. And
that is true.
DeMarcus Walker and Dominique Robinson, who will be on the roster this offseason, but I have a hard time believing that he's going to be on the roster come September. Right.
That's true. 2 things about free agency. One, I was kind of hoping that the Bears would get Danielle Hunter, even though he got a real nice contract to come back home in Texas. And certainly, the adding a veteran like Keenan Allen certainly makes sense because the Bears are ready to win now. So I was hoping maybe Danielle Hunter could have been that guy on the defensive side as well, as expensive as he was. If it's only for 2 years, I thought maybe the Bears could have at least make a shot at it. And then number 2, this is a question for you. Matt Eberflusas indicated that they're happy with the addition of the 2 centers, presumably Ryan Bates, who they tried to sign 2 years ago only to see the Buffalo Bills match it. Now they got him. And then Coleman Sheldon, who was a somewhat of a, I guess based on the PFF rankings, the middle of the pack center with the Los Angeles.
Beat out the guy that Ryan Poles wanted to sign also, Brian Allen.
Yeah. Right, that's right. Are you still concerned about the center position, or you're okay with it at least for now?
I'm always concerned about the offensive line, and depending, this is kind of the way that I look at it, Steven, is Ryan Bates to me is the starter. They believed in him enough, like you said, 2 years ago, to go out and give him a decent contract that I think that they were kind of surprised that Buffalo match. But listen, when you're going for a Super Bowl, you turn into that fuck a cap philosophy, and you worry about those things later. I don't think it's the priority it was. You know what I mean? It's been pushed down. But that being said, if a prospect falls into your lap that you're not expecting, Ryan Bates and Coleman Shelton, neither one of them are good enough to prevent you from saying, "Oh, we can't take this guy," because what is the benefit to both of those guys? Ryan Bates can play any of the 3 spots on the inside, so he's just not, and that's the part of it. And In some weird world where, the Bears traded down and got a second round pick and Powers Johnson was available and they were very high. He was very high on their board. Like I said, neither guy acquired would prevent me from making that move. It's you have a rookie quarterback. Ryan Bates has played center before. Now you have another guy. It's in a lot better hands than it was. We'll just say that.
Absolutely. Cody Whitehair and Lucas Patrick, they were, I would say for the, maybe for the lack of better terms, they were decent or maybe serviceable. But obviously, neither one of them are no longer with the team. So, hopefully that the center position, with two veterans, we don't have to see the centers getting pushed into the quarterbacks like we've seen, the last couple of years with Justin under center. And hopefully those two guys will be able to provide stability in that position. My guest tonight is Shayne Marsaw from the Tape Never Lies Network. I wanted to ask you about Matt Eberflusas as the head coach. And, I wrote an article about, Eberflusas needing to, change his coaching style or at least, elevate the team with the Justin Fields trade discord. And, certainly a lot of people maybe still, sad how it turned out and how he was traded, even though the Bears leadership at least approached, the players and informed them about the trade. And, this offseason about, Eberflusas getting brought back, I'm sure that wasn't well received by your listeners as well. So as of right now, compared to, say, the day after the Packers game to where you are right now, do you feel Matt Eberflusas is still the right coach and that he might get at least a little bit longer leash, given that Caleb Williams is a rookie quarterback and the Bears already having made mistakes pairing with a lame duck coach and a rookie coach only to fire the coach next year, and that they don't want to make that same mistake again?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a difference of opinion here than Ryan Poles does for sure, because I think
I wasn't happy either. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I think Ryan Poles is all on his guy. I'm not so sure the president and CEO of the Chicago Bears is. I'll just say that, but I think he's letting Ryan Poles have his guy and give him another year to see how this goes. But listen, much like Ryan Poles, you got to give him a chance to have his quarterback. They're doing the same thing with Matt Eberflusas.
That's a big problem.
Where I thought all of the stars aligned for the Chicago Bears was Jim Harbaugh being available. I just thought it was the best of both worlds. Now Jim obviously comes in with warts, but I like the fact that he's been here. I like the fact that he knows where some of the skeletons are hidden. I like the fact that he's not afraid to speak his mind. He knows how to handle the media. And oh yeah, by the way, he knows how to procure and develop quarterbacks and offensive lines in modern day NFL offenses. So to me, that just made the most sense, where you could finally have the slate clean and have you would essentially would have been saying to him, what do you want to do at quarterback? And we'll see where that goes. But they didn't make that move, and I think Ryan Poles is 100% all in on Matt Eberflusas. But the radar lock, the bullseye, is firmly on Flus's newly crafted haircut. We'll just say that.
Yeah, I know Alex H pointed out a very important thing. Situational coaching and holding players accountable. And I did mention in my article here that we know he blew 3 double-digit leads against Denver, Detroit, and Cleveland, and that really still probably burns chaps of many fans and your listeners. And the disaster involving Alan Williams and David Walker last year, that made so many unnecessary off the field news, and the training camp, how he handled snap counts during preseasons that led to 0-4 starts. And the biggest problem with him, in my opinion, and I pointed out that he doesn't really feel comfortable, in front of a mic, or, whenever you listen to him talk, he really doesn't offer much explanation. And, as Alex H pointed out, he doesn't really point his players accountable. I do believe that accountability, in his sense, he tends to blame the execution part at a post game many times. And I'm thinking to myself, you and your coaching staff, you're responsible for making sure that those executions, you're in your second year as a head coach. You have at least a better talent than compared to 3-14, disaster a year ago. And you're blaming players on your execution part. There's really no accountability coming from the coaching staff. He has to put, in my opinion, at least, I think he has to hold him and his coaching staff more accountable. And if, God forbid, if the Bears go on another 0-4 or 0-5 start, the players are going to start to tune him out. And so that's the biggest danger that, as you mentioned, Ryan Poles going all in. And I think we all know why, because, both he and Eberflusas happen to share the same agent, which, by the way, ironically, is the former Bear and former NFLPA president, Trace Armstrong, I believe.
Yep.
So, there's that comfort level. So Ryan Poles is all in, and he's definitely hitched his personal and professional reputation with, Matt Eberflusas. So I hope that Eberflusas has learned from those mistakes, or, he's not going to last very long with the Chicago Bears, even with, Caleb Williams as the quarterback. So let's talk about Caleb Williams and, the realistic expectations for him in 2024. And now that we've kind of moved on from Fields and basically zeroing in on Caleb Williams to be drafted number 1 overall, what is your realistic expectations from Caleb that you want to see in this upcoming season? Whether it's the numbers or the when do you see him winning the starting job, et cetera, et cetera.
I think he becomes the starter the night that Roger Goodell announces his name. Expectations, my expectations are for the Chicago Bears to be a playoff football team in 2024. I don't think that that's wildly unrealistic. I will say this about Flus, where I do have to give him credit is I know a lot of people talk about accountability and stuff like that, is the guys did not quit on him. And you hear the guys come out and where they're talking about, they love to play for him and things of that nature. And talking about holding his coaches accountable, let's not forget that everybody essentially on the offensive side of the football was launched into the sun.
Right.
So,
and again, that's on Matt Eberflusas, because he only interviewed 2 candidates for the OC position, which kind of explains why, Ryan Poles had to take initiative and, lead the OC search, which thankfully, at least on paper, we got a very good OC in Shane Waldron and his entire, pretty much his entire staff from Seattle as well. So sorry for interruption, bro.
No, it's fine. But just, back to expectations. Listen, there was a lot of games last year. I don't think you're going to get all of the explosive running plays that you got with Justin from Caleb, but I think you're going to see a much more consistent attack in the passing game. And that's what the NFL is in 2024. And we've never lived that life, Stephen, Chicago Bears fan. And it's a simple fact. I'm the way that I raise my kids is they don't get to choose their football team. You're going to be Bears fans just like Dad is. And my son has asked me, he's like, "Why'd you make me a Bears fan? This sucks." And I said, "Hey, you're gonna grow with this just like your dad is, and we're gonna take this trip together." But like I said, my expectations are 100% for the Bears to contend for the playoffs, and I want to see growth from the offense. Are they going to come out all cylinders firing? It's going to take some time. There's going to be bumps in the road. The first interception he throws, Twitter is going to be toxic, and every time that Justin gets in and has a big play, it's going to, Caleb sucks. We should have kept Justin. But it's, just statistical expectations. Listen, if you want him to set the Bears rookie passing marks, they're abysmal. What is it, like 11 touchdowns and 2,100 yards or something? It's horrible,
Right.
And
the bar is low.
Yeah, it's so low, and I think he's going to not have. I just think Bears fans are going to be excited. I really do, and hopefully they're accepting of the kid, and they realize that. And if you were willing to give Justin into year 4, I mean, unfortunately, there's people out there saying that if he doesn't come out and lead the Bears to the playoffs and throw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, then it's a failure. We'll see how that plays out. I just want to see growth on tape. And my biggest thing is I want to see him command the huddle. I want to see him be able to talk to not only his offensive linemen and his wide receivers. I want to see him be able to go over to the defense and talk to them. I want to see him be the ultimate leader. That's what I want to see from Caleb Williams. And we'll see where that goes, but man, I am excited to watch it all unfold.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. Obviously what he did at USC is certainly incredible, and certainly it's not going to be immediately transferable to the NFL.
Sure.
And I think, that's something that we have to learn to temper expectations. Obviously Poles does see a little bit of Patrick Mahomes in him, and we've seen, enough Patrick Mahomes to know what an exciting player that he is. And, certainly asking him to be
throw that out there, because I'm glad you brought that up, Stephen. And I want to make sure that more people understand this. And when you hear a comparison like that, that's a stylistic comparison.
Right.
That's not a career arc comparison. That's not Ryan Poles, or if I say that he looks like that play looked like Patrick Mahomes, or his release is Aaron Rodgers like. That's not me saying that that's who he's going to be over his career. And that's where people kind of get lost in the sauce a little bit with those comparisons. I was listening to some idiot talk to David Kaplan about, well, he's not going to win 3 Super Bowls in his first 7 years. That's just ridiculous to make a comp like that. Well, nobody's making the career arc comparison.
Right.
Nobody does that.
Exactly.
That's you being not you, but that person being a fucking moron that doesn't want to look big picture. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that there were a lot of fans who said that they will give up being a Bears fan, when they traded away Justin Fields, et cetera, et cetera. I don't. Yeah, I hope if there's that person out there, I hope he or she, eats those words, and hopefully they live up to their end of the bargain.
Imagine that being the reason that you left being a Bears fan. Imagine that being your reason after what we've dealt with for decades. It's crazy to me.
Hey, I've survived long enough to, witness all kinds of terrible quarterbacks since the early 90s, and I'm still a Bears fan, for almost 30 plus years. So what's another, 3-4 more years?
We've waited 105 years for a quarterback, right? We can wait 30 more days.
Exactly. A couple more segments with our tonight's guest, Shayne Marsaw from the Tape Never Lies network. And I want to thank, Shayne for coming on, and his TTNL followers for engaging in the comment section and and so forth. So obviously now the biggest question that's left on the Chicago Bears as of right now is what they're going to do at the 9th pick. Overall. That's the only, well, I wouldn't want to say only interest, but that's the only thing that as of right now the Bears fans are probably thinking of at this point. There's no more need to, engage in conversations about, Washington or anybody moving up to try and, offer King's ransom to, get Caleb Williams. So the 9th overall pick as of right now, the Bears have 1, 9, and a couple of late rounders. Unfortunately, they traded away second for Montez Sweat last year, and recently Keenan Allen went to the LA Chargers for the 4th round pick that I believe they got from the Philadelphia in the Jalen Carter trade yesterday. So as of right now, I think Matt Eberflusas kind of, tipped his hand about, staying at number 9 based on the comments he made at the owners and coaches meeting today. Shayne, as of right now, would you stay at number 9? And what will it take for you to say, okay, I think we might want to trade down and get more picks in the 2nd or maybe 3rd round, in order to get more ammo?
Yeah, to me, it's really hard to answer that, just honestly, because it all depends on how it were, who is there. Right. I've changed my thought process on this a little bit since the Keenan Allen trade, just because I feel like I can get you a quality starting wide receiver at 75 that in time can be my wide receiver too. But he's not going to be thrust into that position right now. But I'm also a huge Malik Neighbors fan. He's my wide receiver too. And if he's there, it's given me serious pause about taking him. And I'm a Roma Dunze fan also. The big separator for me is the way that this draft is constructed. And I'm not sure if you saw Ryan Poles kind of talked about the limited amount of picks that they have. He said it actually kind of plays into how they have this draft broken down, because they think that there's a serious drop off where, you got a bunch of talent and then everybody just falls off of a cliff. So them not having a bunch of late picks in the, in the 5th and 6th and 7th rounds isn't really a factor for them. But I think that when I talked about the interior of the line with Ryan Bates not being good enough to prevent you from drafting a guy, I also feel the same way about Braxton Jones. I think on a good team, a playoff football team, Braxton Jones is an excellent swing tackle.
Yeah.
If Joe Alt is at 9, I'm writing his name down and I'm taking it up and I'm drafting Joe Alt at 9. And I will have my bookends for the next 12 years at offensive tackle with my franchise quarterback. And as a Bears fan, when was the last time we could say that? So offensive tackle to me, I think it's 100% in play. I think you could see a little trade down for the Bears, depending on how these quarterbacks fall. I know there's a lot of talk about Denver taking Bo Nix. I'm glad I'm not in that world.
Yeah.
But Vegas also likes Nix. And so if you can use those two against one another and you see these quarterbacks falling off the board,
right?
Do they want to move up? But you have a big hole at pass rusher, and you can never have enough offensive linemen. And I think your wide receivers 1 and 2 with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen is a pretty sweet setup. You added another weapon in DeAndre Swift. Cole Kmet is just turned 25 years old and is still, expanding his game. And let's not forget about Gerald Everett, a yak monster at the tight end position. So if I were to rank it, if the right offensive tackle was there, that would be my move. Then edge. Then I think you're talking about wide receiver, and then the ultimate wild card is defensive tackle. And to me, it's not Johnny Newton; it's Byron Murphy from Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he's my number one interior player, and to me, it's not close on that.
Do you feel like, with the addition of Keenan Allen, that Ryan Poles kind of owe, Eberflusas a favor and maybe drafting a defensive player, whether it's the edge or an interior guy at 9 or even trading down? Or do you feel like that's a nonsense talk?
Well, it's the thing that makes this defense go is the
three technique, right?
Is the three technique. And listen, there was big questions. I can remember heading into the second round last year, we went live before the draft started, and I had a conversation with Herb Howard specifically about Gervon Dexter, because I'm like, this guy's sitting there and I feel like this is going to be the guy. And, we didn't love his get off, but he was asked to do some really different things at Florida. Phil wasn't as high on him. But you see the progress that he made, and you pair him with a guy like a Byron Murphy. I just love the thought of that. And does that make that's going to, you got to look at the defensive line. You got to look at guys that you hear them talk about multipliers all the time. Right. You want them to make the guys beside them better, and also make the linebackers better and the secondary better. And a guy like Byron Murphy can 100% do that just by putting pressure on the quarterback. Not that he's got to get there and have 15 sacks as a rookie. It's just collapsing that pocket and making his presence known, because what's the quickest way to the quarterback, Steven? And that's
exactly
straight line.
Straight line
right there. And it's an interesting debate, and I think what you always want to have are a number of options in the draft. And I don't think that the Bears are forced into saying, all right, we have to go to this position. I think they can go BPA at wide receiver, defensive tackle, defensive end, or offensive tackle.
So if the Bears ended up staying at 9 and draft whoever they believe is the best, player available, regardless of the position, would you be okay with them, making no trades at all, just basically stay with where they are? Because the second and fourth round pick that they, gave up this year ultimately was, again, Montez Swift for the second round, and then fourth round pick turned out to be Keenan Allen. So basically you got the, rookies and then the veterans that out of the 2024 draft class. Would you kind of go along with that, argument?
Yeah, I'm not against it.
Not going to be upset.
I mean, we've run these mock draft simulators 100 times, and I know they're more fun than accurate, but you can see where you get down to 19 or 20 and you're like, oh Jesus, this didn't really work out the way that I expected. And when you're drafting in the top 10, and you have you heard Flus say flat out today, we love where we're at because we're gonna, if we stick, we're gonna get a blue player.
Exactly.
And that's, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. You want impact from these guys. You want another Darnell Wright. You know where you're going at 1. Sometimes quantity isn't the answer. And if you can come away with 2 impact players within the top 10, I'm not sure adding an extra second round pick trumps that at all.
Well, it's going to be very, very interesting. Certainly Bears can go no wrong in this draft, because you could get 2, as Flu said today, you get two blue as in blue chip player within the top 10. Again, thank you very much, Carolina Panthers and the owner, David Tepper. Thank goodness. But, if the Bears do ended up trading down, I hope that, certainly, Ryan Poles is very calculated and he knows, what he wants and, getting an additional
drop down. I mean, not to step on it a little bit here, but if you go down, I mean, you're looking at an offensive tackle like Fatanu from Washington, and the ultimate wild card in all of this is going to be Leatu Latu, depending on how the medicals go.
Exactly.
If the medicals weren't a question mark, listen. Jimmy Lake is the new defensive coordinator in Atlanta.
Okay.
He was the defensive coordinator for the Washington Huskies that recruited Leatu Latu to the Huskies. And then Jimmy Lake became the head coach in Washington when Latu had to, medically retire. So
exactly, right.
There. And he's the new DC in Atlanta. Atlanta picks 8, and I think Atlanta is all in on Edge. If his medicals are going to trump it all because it's a neck. So that's going to be the interesting name. And if the Bears are sold on it, I mean, you add that. To me, I'm not sure I could do it just because of the medicals.
Yeah, I don't think Poles is the guy who want to gamble on a medical.
This isn't an ankle that we're talking about. It's your neck, but he's the ultimate wild card in the entire draft, man. Because if you put him on tape and you're like, whew, I mean, this dude gets it. He knows how to play.
Do you like him over Jared Verse?
So over here at TTNL, like I said, we are in agreement on Caleb Williams, but and Marvin Harrison, Phil and I both have as wide receiver 1, but that's pretty easy. But medicals are a part of it because I obviously don't have access to that. I have Dallas Turner as my top edge. Yeah. And then I would go Leatu Latu 2 just because of medicals. And then I would be in the Jared Verse. And a lot of people don't like this philosophy of mine, but I hate drafting aged players high because
I believe both Verse and Latu.
Exactly. They're older guys. Latu is going to be 24.
Of course, the COVID played a real bad wreck in the pretty much the whole situation, because college football was completely messed up during that time, of course.
Yeah. So that's a big part of it. But it's gonna be interesting. But at the end of the day, I don't think you can ever go wrong with adding a top flight offensive lineman to this team.
Right. I do kind of worry about Eberflusas penchant for wanting especially on the defensive line, guys with certain arm length and size. Montez Sweat certainly fit the bill, and thank God he really played lights out for the Bears and made a huge turnaround for him and the Bears in the second half of last year. When you look at a guy like Dallas Turner, certainly maybe size wise not the kind of the biggest guy, and not the kind of guy that Flus is normally gravitate towards to. When you look at the tape, are you kind of like, pay attention to the intangibles, like arm strength, like a RAS, or are you one of those people like, if you're a good coach, you make sure that the, talent trumpets schemes, which I know every coach in every sports fails to, make sure, understand that. Where do you lean in on that type of stuff?
Yeah, I try to keep, we do this all through the season. So before we get the RAS scores and all of that, it's just straight tape, and that's kind of that's the basis of everything
of your network.
Of everything that we do. But then 100% Raz is and it's clearly a big part of what Ryan Poles believes in, as it should be. I totally understand that. But just to get back to Dallas Turner real quick, there was a lot of I don't want to say a lot of pushback, but there was people that were saying the same things about Will Anderson last year, and they're almost identical. And listen, if you can play football, you can play football. All of these guys aren't going to be Montez Sweat, that are 6'6" and 264 pounds and can run 4.4s, but there's no perfect prospect. But I kind of base everything on tape, and then when combine comes around, then you're watching these guys run and you're watching their agility, and then you take that and then you go back and you watch these guys again with that knowledge, and you just want to see how it correlates, because the one guy, and unfortunately we drafted him, that I could never figure out was Kevin White.
Yeah.
You watched him on tape, and there was no part of his game that screamed 4.39. No part of it.
Right.
Not even when he was running a go route. To me, on tape, he looked like a 4.5 guy. And he went out to the combine and blew it up and ran the 4.3, and next thing you know, the Bears are drafting him number 7 overall. It's just everything's got these athletic traits have to mirror and match what you see on tape. And I will say this about Dallas Turner, to your point, he started off the year not where he needed to be, and he started to figure things out. And one other name that I would think about, obviously, too, is I'm an admitted Alabama fan, but I'm very tough on most Alabama players. I'm usually not a fan of projecting them into the NFL on my team, but Chris Braswell is a name that I would write down and think about a little bit later. If the Bears don't go pass rusher in the first round, I think that that could be a guy. And let's not forget, we have 2 second rounders next year. So if you're at 75 and you need to spice things up a little bit, and there's a pass rusher, if you go offensive tackle and there's a pass rusher that's falling like a Braswell, do they take 75 and add a 2025 asset to go get that guy?
Right. I think it's only in the extremes you probably have to use that Carolina second round pick from next year, because it's probably unless something really good happens to them, I think it's a guaranteed top 5 pick again for Carolina within the next year.
Yeah.
So I think in the extremes,
you can always trade your own also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So would you give up that pick from the Carolina, move up and say, Marvin Harrison's available at 5 or 6? No, you wouldn't go that far then.
No.
Okay.
I would not. Marvin Harrison is my wide receiver 1. I don't have enough of a gap between Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze for me to give up an asset that valuable. No. Okay. I would 100% take my chances. Now, if you're talking about I know Mike Tannenbaum had a mock draft come out yesterday that had had Marvin Harrison falling to number 9. If let's say he was available at number 7 to Tennessee, and Tennessee realizes that Atlanta is not going to go offensive tackle, and they can fall back to 9, and they can get their offensive tackle because Atlanta is probably going to go edge rusher. Would I be willing to flip 122 to do? I would do something like that. That's what the Bears did with Leonard. The Bears went from 11 to 9 in 2015 with Tampa to jump the Giants for Leonard Floyd, and they flipped.
Okay. Yeah. I remember. Yeah. Yes.
So that's something that I could be talked into. Sure. But second round draft pick, no, I'm not in that market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. If Marvin is still, God forbid, around 7, And Tennessee, for all the moves that they've done this offseason, they still need a tackle, definitely.
Sure.
They released Andre Dillard recently as well.
Yep.
So, if we give up a second round pick from next year for the Carolina pick, and then maybe if the Bears are, if Tennessee, I can't look it up right now, but if Tampa still has an extra 3 or 5 that they can give it to us,
sure,
at least the Bears will get a decent pick in the 3rd round as well. So, it's very, very interesting to
now I would throw this out there too, Steve. We acquired Montez Sweat with a 2nd round pick. So, if the Bears have to wait a little bit on their edge and have to make a deal in season, we've seen them do that to bring in a quality guy with a 2nd round pick where you have 2 of them this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are the, kind of a scenario now that I think the fans are going to be focusing on moving forward now. And Shayne, listen, I want to thank you for coming on tonight and bringing your, followers onto my channel as well. We've had, it's a great time to be a Bears fan. And, obviously we've had our, issues, amongst the fan base over Fields and Williams. And, it really hurt our reputations, locally and nationally, going after, media members. And of course, we had a bit of a chat on, some of the media members also gaslighting the whole situation because we've never had a decent quarterback and all. But I do believe that we are in a very exciting time, and we should probably definitely feel positive about the direction of this ball club, even with Matt Eberflusas as our head coach and so forth. But you can follow Shayne, as you can see scrolling, if not already, at on X, and also the Tape Never Lies Network. And I'm also bringing in more people, to discuss about the Bears in the draft next month. John Vogel from the, Adam Ranks Sick Network. He was a guest with me last back in February, and is kind enough to join me again. Jacob Infante, who I'm sure and everybody knows, he's also coming on in April as well. And then also from The Athletic, Ted Nguyen from, he is also kind enough to join me as well. So, I appreciate the people who, follow me tonight, and hopefully, if anybody's interested in the conversation, with the experts that I just mentioned, hopefully you'll follow me on Twitter. I'll post them whenever the dates and time are set. So, Shayne, thank you very much. And before we go, I wanted to ask you, how is your son doing these days?
He's doing great. We're going every 90 days for a full body PET scan just to check and see and make sure, and chest X-rays to make sure that there was no bad stuff present. We've been pushed to the 6th month mark. It's probably something that we're going to have to get used to probably for the next 15, 20 years at least in his life, but it's obviously a small price to pay when you look big picture and what it can prevent and what it can look like moving forward. But he's doing great. He played soccer in the fall, and then right into his first love is basketball. But he's out of basketball season now, and I went and picked him up from baseball practice before this show. So he's being the typical 13-year-old kid that loves playing Madden and having fun with his friends, and he's got to go about things a little bit different than a lot of kids his age because of what he's had to deal with being a cancer survivor. Hopefully it's nothing that any parent has to go through. I know my buddy and one of the biggest supporters that we have at TTNL, Ryan Cox, that's kind of we do a shout out segment at the end of every Keeping It 100 where we shout out fans, and it's the Spencer Strong segment because Spencer was the OG for all of us dealing with the same type of issues initially, that my son, and he was he even preceded Riley, and it's I get the flu or a head cold, and I'm the biggest baby in the world. And you listen, you get news like that about your child, and you see the way the strength and determination that they face this faceless monster with, and it is really, really inspiring. I mean, I don't think I could ever do it, and my son never complained once. I can remember when we were walking upstairs, and he was the way that it worked for him when he was in chemo, when he got sick, it just hit him like a switch. And the one day we were walking upstairs and it hit him, and he was puking so hard his hair was falling out of his head. And that's when I'm like, what? This is a 10-year-old boy dealing with this. And it's a reality check as a parent and as a human being. And it just shows you the strength and willpower of a child. I wish more people had it. That's for sure. Here we are bitching and moaning about having the number 1 pick in the draft, and look what some of these kids are dealing with. We could learn a lot from them. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very, very glad to hear your son doing very well these days, and obviously, a lot of the your followers are sending a lot of encouraging words regarding your son, and obviously they're very familiar, with what your son had gone through the last few years. So I want to thank you again for coming on tonight and bringing your followers, and I want to thank each and every one of the people commenting tonight. And I hope I did good enough job to post the comments, which I don't usually normally get on my show, and because it's still new, and we do bring in a lot of Bears fans, Bears experts to talk about it. If you look at my YouTube channel, I've done a lot of that with Rashab Shakiri from the Windy City production on YouTube, and he's our regular guest as well. So Shayne, thank you very much, and I look forward to having you on again very soon, maybe after the draft, and see where the Bears are now after the NFL draft. And good luck to you, and say hello to Phil and everybody over at the TTNL.
Will do. I gotta bounce out of here, and we're doing a Patreon show breaking down Olu Fashanu.
Good.
That's live.
Well, I hope I didn't keep you too much
right
there,
now, so I'm going to go from you to there. So appreciate it, man.
Right. Thank you. I hope I didn't take too much of your time.
No, not at all. No, I love this stuff. Thanks,
Thank you very much,
appreciate
and God bless, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much,
thanks.
and thank you very much. All right, folks, thank you very much for joining me and following me on Twitter, and also following me on the YouTube channel, which I normally do regularly with my co-host Ken Fang from Awful Announcing, which I'm sure you're very, very familiar with. So as I mentioned, earlier, I do have a future guest in the works. Yesterday, I did one with Herb Lawrence from CHGO, Alexis Jade, and Rashab Shakiri. We did one yesterday. As I said before, I'm also in the works of bringing in John Bogle. I believe it is April 2nd. So that's next week at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. And then I also have Jacob Infante, who I'm sure you guys are very familiar with. That's in the works, already nailed down. And the most well-known, respected analyst, Ted Nugent from The Athletic, he's expected to come on around April 10th. So if you follow me on Twitter, and thank you very much for following me tonight. I got a couple of nice followers from the Shayne and the TTNL crew. I'll be posting those, and then hopefully you guys will be able to join me and ask questions and be more engageful as well. So thank you for your patience, and I look forward to seeing you down the road, and have a great night, everybody.